Nova plates.
Great. Oh my gosh. Here we are, my friend.
Hello.
Dude, it's good to see you.
It's good to see you as well.
You know what I can tell you, man, is when you told me you were coming back home and I was daydreaming the idea of like, I should have this guy in front of me, we should talk. I read all the blog posts you wrote.
Okay.
And I was moved.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Is writing something you do primarily with pen? I think you made a brief statement in one that said like, I haven't written with a letter.
With a pen and paper in a long time? Yeah, I can't do it. I don't. My handwriting is pretty bad. That's probably one of the main reasons. And also, just with not being able to see very well, it's easier if I'm on a computer. I can adjust the font size, make it bigger, make it smaller. And honestly, I lose journals a lot. Like I journal a lot by hand. Like I'll take notes if I'm like out doing something and I think of a thought that I need to expound upon. I'll pull out. I have a little field notes notebook and I'll write something down. And then I'll, save it for later, and then I'll get back home and I'll read it and kind of ruminate on the thought and go from there. So
I can dig it.
yeah,
I love those tiny notebooks.
yeah. I found this one. I was at a yard sale, like 2 or 3 weeks after I moved out to Washington, and it's like from the 70s. It's really old field notes notebook, and it's like a flip top one, and it is just like full of ridiculous ramblings of my mind, and it's pretty awesome to go through and see.
I can dig it.
Yeah.
I have something similar where I pour exactly that, ramblings of the mind, onto a page, and sometimes you go back and you read it and you're like, I wrote this?
Yeah.
What
So what was I thinking at that time in my
Exactly,
life?
man,
Like, what was
exactly.
going on?
Do you ever write like real early after you wake up? Is that ever like something you go right to, journal?
I should definitely. It's a little tricky because I usually have to wake up pretty early for work, and it's kind of hard to get the motivation. I'm a night owl, but I like to sleep, so it's tricky. I usually only write whenever I write almost every day, I guess. And some of the best stuff I do is just 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, right after work. Doing it in the morning, my brain is like it is right now, a little foggy. Like I've been awake for 20 minutes right now. I think I woke up at 8:50.
Nice.
So I'm, trying to get my brain to go in the morning is a little trickier. So
That's my obstacle, personally,
Yeah.
is the morning time.
Yeah.
The earlier I rise feeling good and getting after it, the better the whole day seems to go.
absolutely, yeah. But it's like it's one of those things that like, yeah, this is really good for me, but you know what else is really good? Sleeping. It feels so good. But there are upsides and downsides. You can make anything sound like it's the right thing to do.
Dude, for real, yes. I finished this book called Why We Sleep, and it was one of those make you think totally differently about even going to bed type of reads,
Is it saying sleep is a positive or a negative?
It was saying sleep is, one of the funnier things he mentions is being awake, like the state of wakefulness is basically low-level brain damage. And
Yeah.
the only thing to heal that is long periods, 6, 7 hour, 8 hour sleeps ideally,
Yeah.
He says he leaves a 9 hour window non-negotiable for laying in bed, and if he gets 8, then cool, more cool, but
Yeah.
crazy. It's something we as a people in America seem to
Love.
brag about if
Yeah.
we can do without it. Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and I think
You have these cats that are like, I'll sleep when I'm dead. I don't need sleep.
yeah.
1.5 hour.
They're like, I sleep for 2 hours a day. I'm like, how the fuck do you do that? That's, excuse my language.
You're good, man.
How do you do that? I mean, you can't possibly be productive sleeping 15 minutes every 2 hours. Like, who falls asleep? Who can just lay down and be like, I'm asleep? And, more power to you if you can. But it also feeds into the whole, work as hard as you can until you're dead. And don't sleep because you're wasting time, because time is money, and money is the most important thing in our entire life.
Dude.
Which is just utter bullshit. It's just, at least in my experience of living, I don't think that is the most important part of existence. Just like sleep to me is far more valuable than being productive, because that's how I will be better at my day to day, by sleeping. Hi, buddy.
Right.
But-
Yeah, and the guy was a legit Matthew Walker is the author. He's an actual scientist of sleep, not so much a doctor of sleep. He doesn't prescribe
Yeah.
sleeping,
Yeah.
pills to people. He talks about caffeine. We were talking about how tea versus coffee and trying not to have a heart attack.
Yeah.
He was talking about how the half-life of caffeine is like 6 to 7 hours.
Yeah.
So I drink it, let's say 11, right before lunch. I have this espresso, and then I go to this holiday party. And 7 hours later, 50% of that espresso is still in my body, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
I felt like I was gonna have a heart attack.
Yeah.
It had been forever since I drank coffee too, and so it was one of those things.
Yeah. When I quit coffee, I also, on the same day, quit cigarettes, and I also quit eating any kind of animal byproduct. So I went full vegan, no coffee, no
I remember
cigarettes.
reading this.
And coffee was the hardest one to kick. Cigarettes was no big deal.
Interesting.
I mean, living on the farm, I get all the free vegetables and whatnot, so being a vegan isn't that challenging out there.
Okay, cool.
But coffee, I'm sorry, it's not even that I used it to wake me up or that I even enjoyed the taste. It was just like a ritualistic, I need this in my stomach, I'll still drink decaf, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not completely crazy.
Sure.
But that was the hardest one. Because I still, I've had it maybe 5 times since then, just like out of habit. Like, I'll go out to a coffee shop and I'll order something and I'll be like, shit, I didn't say decaf. I'm like, well, I'm going to be anxious for the next 6 hours and not be able to get anything done. I don't know how people will drink coffee and then be like, all right, let's do this. I'm like, I drink coffee and I'm like, oh my God, what is going on? What is the meaning of everything in the world?
I can feel that. I get very my brain probably gets overactive.
Yeah.
It's like a stimulant, you know what I mean? I'm like wired. But
yeah,
I
you're just
learned my lesson.
Yeah.
Not to order some espresso. Have a regular cup, have some decaf.
Where'd you have this espresso?
I was in a strip with my brother.
Okay.
And his girlfriend. And we went to that place, La Prima.
La Prima Espresso.
So he's like, oh, I'm getting a biscotti. I'm going to dunk it in some coffee. And I'm like, that sounds so great. I didn't even think twice about the fact that caffeine would be a factor in that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But lesson learned. The other thing that guy in the sleep book talks about is circadian rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
How your body, when the sun rises, and the temperature starts to come up a little bit, tends to just wake you up. They do these studies of indigenous tribes that still basically live on a solar sleep schedule.
Yeah.
Is that something you have happening to you living in Washington, living in the elements?
I would say absolutely. The sun, when I first moved out there, really dictated when I woke up, when I went to bed, because where I live, very, very, very far north, in the summer, the sun comes up at 4 a.m. and it goes down at around 11:30 p.m. Like maybe 11 p.m. 11:30 might be a little bit of a stretch. But when I got out there, the first day I woke up and I was like, oh, it's like 7 a.m. I feel great. This is awesome. And I looked at my phone and it was 4 a.m. And then I couldn't wake up past 5 a.m. And I'm the kind of person that would sleep until 11, 12, 1. Just waste my time sleeping. Well, sleep in overabundance, right? An overabundance of sleep. But going out there, I just was forced to, because it's very bright in the morning and very bright at night. So I would sleep less in the summer. And now that it's winter, I go to bed at 8. Excuse me. And I will wake up at, still I have to get up for work at 5. So, but I sleep a lot more in the winter. It's kind of cool though, because I kind of feel like that's how we were supposed to be, is you do a lot of stuff in the summer, you go out, you have fun, you explore. Then in the winter, you kind of just hibernate.
I can dig that, yeah.
Yeah. And it's nice now, I was living outside all summer, I was camping all summer, so you can't close a window or put a blind down when it's bright out at 4 a.m. You kind of just have to, okay, I'm awake now and got to do this stuff. Now it's okay, I want to sleep, it's already pitch black outside at 3:30 p.m. because the sun goes down at 3:15 in the winter, and it rises at 8:30. So you have this very short window of daytime. So just trying to find the right balance of am I sleeping too much in the winter or not enough in the summer? What's going on? It seems to be working out pretty well, But now that I live inside, I can just close the blinds and, well, I guess inside should be in quotations because it's kind of inside, kind of outside. It's a weird situation.
I can dig it. Is it a half tiny home or something along those lines?
It's a school bus. It's a converted school bus. So It's technically a dwelling. It's a house, but it can get very cold. Whatever temperature it is outside, it is in the bus, unless you have a fire going. Because there's a wood stove in there that I usually stock up to keep warm and make sure I don't die.
Badass.
Yeah. I spend most of like the 2 weeks before I left, came back to Pittsburgh for this holiday. I just spent like 6 days or 5 days chopping wood just to make sure I was good for the winter. And I am set, which is a very strange experience when I'm used to just being able to walk up to a thermostat and turn it to 64 degrees, and then 5 minutes later the heat kicks on and I'm warm. Now it's like, okay, I had to chop all this wood, bring it all inside, and then I have to get the fire started, and then maybe the fire won't start, and it's going to be a pain in the ass to try to start that fire. And then once you get the fire going, it's like, oh my God, it's so hot in here. So you open a window in the bus, and they're all just like, the school bus windows are just like, and you open one of those, and then the fire goes out in the middle of the night, and you wake up, and it's 30 degrees outside, and it's 30 degrees inside, and you're under like 4 or 5 sleeping bags, and you're really warm, and you get up, and it's like, oh my God, it's so cold in here.
Dude, for real.
But it's nice because then you wake up, and you're immediately wide awake. You're not like slow to wake. Your body just is like, okay, time to do whatever you got to do, which is nice. So
that is something else, man. I imagine that I would feel a little more at home with the ancestry vibe, way that people lived in the element, instead of in modern home with modern plumbing and whatnot.
Yeah, it's a weird dichotomy to see, especially coming out here. Like, I haven't spent more than 20 minutes outside since I've been here. And before that, I spent, 134 days living in a tent outside, So it's
a lot of days.
It's a lot of days. I wasn't counting. I used Google to count for me. I loved it.
Yeah, no, that'll happen.
Yeah.
It's crazy what you can go and
Just like, how many days since, and it's like 100. And I was like, that's a lot of days. And that was all spent outside, which kind of really, the first time I went to a house in Washington, I was like astounded. I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot the couch is like this. Nova's chasing his tail here. But yeah, and then especially coming back here after living in the bus, which the bus has electricity, running water, full kitchen, bedroom, living room, like especially the wood stove, but everything there is definitely like, if I want food, I walk out into the field and I pull it out of the ground. Or I'll go into the packing shed where there's like 5 1,000 pound, or I don't even know if they're 1,000 or 10,000 pound boxes of potatoes or carrots or whatever, and I'll pick those. But
it's gotta be a fun feeling.
Oh, it's amazing. It's
especially also like to have it, so you have this like moment with the earth of, hey, thanks.
Yeah, you just walk out and you're like, oh, which carrot am I going to eat today? And there's millions of them,
That's awesome.
Yeah, so you just grab your carrots or whatever you're eating, and then you go back and you cook it up.
What's the most challenging thing about bus life, camp life for you?
For me, let me think on that for a minute. The most challenging thing about bus life is, it's not really that challenging. It's actually, I guess the hardest part about it is kind of missing the creature comforts and coming back here and like realizing like, this is so different. That's what's most challenging, is that I'm not used to being in like this environment, right? Being inside or being safe. Because out there, like, I could walk outside at night and there could be a bear just like 10 feet away, or there could be a mountain lion just following me around, or coyotes are a big thing, and I have a puppy. So it's, hardest thing, I know the answer, and I'm sorry that I'm rambling here.
No, you're good.
Keeping it clean is the hardest thing about bus life. Because I'm like a clean freak.
Okay.
But I live on a farm.
Yes.
And there is,
got it.
Farms have
I'm with you.
A lot of things that are really gross. Mud, which isn't gross, but it's just a very dirty element. So like, there's always mud everywhere. You just kind of have to come to grips with the fact that like, everything's going to be dirty all the time, and that's okay. It's not a big deal. It's not like I'm having hordes of women over to hang out. It's me and a dog in there all the time.
I feel that, but to have a thing where you're like trying to be tidy
and then
the environment being what it is, it's you're making some compromises with what tidiness is gonna look like.
Yeah, and then my dog runs in covered in mud and whatever, and she just like jumps up on the bed and she's like, "Hi, Dad," and I'm like, "Oh, I love you, but you get mud everywhere.
Love it.
You know, which is so silly because whenever I was tenting it on that communal living space I was staying on, it was a lot easier to keep clean because I only had I had a very small tent, and I had to keep like a very small space clean. And it was very easy, you know, wipe the dog off before she goes in the tent. Easy enough. Now there's no lock on the bus door, so she can just go in and out as she pleases.
Okay.
So unless I'm in there with her, then I can pull the doors all the way shut and like kind of lock them.
That sounds like a really cool setup.
It's awesome.
The dog's name is Penny?
Penny, Peninsula, because we live on the Olympic Peninsula.
I can dig it.
Yeah.
Very cool.
She's a very, very good dog. She's a weird dog, but...
I love it, man. Animals are something else.
Man, I've learned so much from that dog. It's crazy.
I love that. Do you ever have these, like, non-verbal moments of understanding?
Every day.
I
Because I was the first human to hold her. I was there the day she was born. You know what? No, I was not there the day she was born. I retract that. She was born on the 16th of August, or June, I'm sorry, and I saw her on like the 21st of June, so she was like 4 days old. I went and saw her and held her, and I went and saw her like every couple days after that. And, you know, we have this weird connection where like, she's very sassy with me, and anyone else, she's like, I love you, you're the best. With me, she's like, what are you doing? But there will be times like where her and I will be out hiking, or because that's what we do for fun every day is we'll go on a hike. Because, you know, we're in the national park is like 5 minutes away in my backyard. So we'll go on a hike, and, you know, I'll walk, and if we have someone else with us, she'll follow them if they're going ahead. I like to take my time, but she'll stop and she'll look back at me as if like, are you okay? Are you coming? Like what, you know, and then when I get close enough, she'll just like take off again, and then she'll stop, and then she'll look at me. And it's just an endless pattern of that. And yeah, it's pretty awesome because this is the first time coming back to Pittsburgh just for a visit that I bring her with me everywhere. If I'm working, I will bring her in the car and she'll stay in the car. But then I'll go out on my breaks and we'll go on walks and we'll, you know, I don't leave her by herself just because she's a puppy. I feel like a lot of people would like crate their puppy and put it in their house, but like I can't do that because it's gonna get too cold in there because I can't regulate the heat. If it gets too cold, I don't want her to die. If she's in the car, at least I know I can go out there and give her some blankets and
right on. You
know, and I would feel really anxious that she would eat something in the house because she's a puppy and she chews everything. So she just eats my car, which is not that big of a deal. It's just a car, you know. But yeah, her and I have had a lot of conversations. I talk to her every day. When I'm writing especially, I'll be like, so what do you think about this? And she'll just look at me like, I have no idea what you're saying. Like, you sound crazy, Jeremy. And, but you know, I've learned a lot about her. When people ask me some questions, I kind of relate back to her and what she's taught me. And because the relationship that humans have with animals, dogs especially, is so beautiful. It's something that has been around since probably the dawn of time. You know, putting something to work for us, but also something to work with us as an animal and as a friend. You know, because Penny and I have a symbiotic relationship. When we're out hiking, she knows that if something happens, I can protect her. But I also know now, because she's big enough, that if something happens to me, she can protect me by scaring something away or letting me know that something's nearby.
For sure.
You know? Because on the farm, sometimes, if there are deer, I'll be like, hey, go get that. And she'll chase it off. And if there are coyotes, she'll stay near me and be like, I'll go out there.
Right, for real. Oh, dog man. You want to play, don't you? You got a ball and everything.
But yeah.
Man. You, a dog, the nature. It sounds so nice.
It's perfect.
And I know everything has its ups and downs and pros and cons, but like...
Totally. It's like one of those things, especially being in Pittsburgh, a place that feels so comfortable and safe. I don't think safe is the correct word, because mentally this is not a very safe place for me, because this is where one of the darkest times in my life occurred. But being in a place that I feel, what's the word I'm looking for? I already said safe, so we'll say safe. Like I feel, okay, if something happens, I know everyone in this town. Like I can figure out a way to survive. Out there, it's like if something happens, I know like 25 people, and everything is like 40 or 50 miles apart. I live 30 miles away from the closest town. I live excuse me, the closest store is 15 miles away. And yeah, there are definitely ups and downs where I feel really lonely sometimes, but that kind of fades away when I realize, and I go outside and I realize I can go outside and see some of the most beautiful things I've ever seen, you know, and that makes me feel very comfortable and safe.
Got to.
Yeah. So, and the other night I was laying in bed here and I was like, man, maybe I'll stay in Pittsburgh. And then I immediately thought, like, you're not going to stay in. That's dumb. Because I have so much more there than I have here. I'm doing so much better than I was here after everything that had happened. And it's just, it's a strange way to live your life, but it's the way that makes the most sense to me, at least in this moment, you know.
I can take that.
You know.
Time is our most valuable asset. And when you're feeling brand new feelings
that
are of that magnitude, you're going to find a creative way to respond.
Totally.
You know? And I was surprised when becoming a farmer was the go-to thing. I remember for a second it was carpentry.
Yes.
That also felt very like
Yeah.
back to the root of being a working man.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It has that appeal, that like Christ-like appeal. Like I'm gonna
Yeah.
work with wood
And build things.
and be peaceful.
Yeah.
Turn
But-
the other cheek.
Yeah.
And to go and also do farming, like it's got to be so blissful in the hands-on kind of way.
It is the best job I've ever had. And with that, it is the hardest job that I think anyone, besides like a commercial fisherman,
Okay.
could have. It is, and I'm not very good at it. I'm really bad at it because I'm learning how to do it.
Right on.
It's very easy, but like there's a lot of stuff that's like tactile and you have to be able to see okay, and I can't see really well.
Okay.
And like I'm learning how to do it properly, and I'm learning all the different science behind it because it's weird because there's so much science behind organic agriculture, and there's so much politics behind organic agriculture, and there's so much hard physical work behind organic agriculture. Like there will be days where I'll be in the packing shed and we'll have, 50, 60 boxes of cabbage that I need to weigh out to weigh 50 pounds each. Sometimes there'll be 100 boxes of cabbage. So you're looking at 5,000 pounds of just deadlifting these cabbages. So you're tearing your body apart in a good way, but you're also in the field, you're also doing the same thing with kale where the boxes weigh about 30 pounds and you're doing 200 of those. So you're lifting those up, you're putting them up, but you're also boxing them up. It's fast paced, it's disgustingly dirty, it's painful at times. Like I slipped a disc in my back and had to go to the emergency room. And that's just because I was being an ass, like a dumbass, and wasn't stretching, wasn't getting my body prepared, wasn't doing anything the proper way. So it's that I attribute farming and learning about and literally going back to where we came from, the earth, and just digging my hands into it and, staining my clothes and being really dirty all the time too. So one of the reasons I'm where I am right now, mentally and physically and emotionally.
I can dig it.
It's crazy what, it took just changing everything to kind of survive and stay alive. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You feel like what happened kind of like was a certain dying of a type of Jeremy and a rebirth of a new Jeremy?
I wouldn't put it in those words. I would say from December until May, when everything was just like, I was just like getting kicked in the balls, like left and right. At least I perceived it that way at the time. Now I have a different perception of it, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But I'd say that what happened, whether it was the death of my sister or the loss of my relationship or me closing my business and me moving to Washington, being like kind of like the, what, fuck it, I need to leave and, need to go. Shit, I lost my train of thought.
I asked you the thing about, do you feel like a dying?
Yes, a dying.
Jeremy
So
and a rebirth. You said that's not accurate per se.
I would say that if anything, it really showed me who I was, not a new version of myself, but the version of...
Okay, I like that.
It's the version of myself that's always been there, and the version of myself that's always existed. But I was too, no pun intended, blinded by whether it was me being dishonest about certain things or with other people, and especially dishonest with myself. Because I've never felt more like myself and more comfortable with who I am than I have since I left, and threw myself into this situation where the only person I could rely on was myself. And that's the main reason I ran out. I didn't run out there. That's the main reason I went there. And I've had this conversation a few times where people are like, well, you can't just run away from your problems. And I said to them,
you're taking ownership of the problem.
I realized that this is my problem. This is what caused the problem. And I'm going to go take care of this on my own in a place where I know two people.
Yeah.
Like when I went out there, I knew two people, maybe three tops, two family members and one friend. And I had the help from them, but then I was on my own. So yeah, I'd say that I've always known who I wanted to be, and I wrote this, but it was as if I was trying to be something that I was not. And then the tragedies and the grief that I've been going through and everything, the only way to heal through that is you have to realize who you are first and how I would react to things. Because before it was very angry and I wanted to just be like, fuck you, I hate you, fuck you, fuck life, this is bullshit. And now I look back on those situations that had happened or those experiences that I went through, and I've stopped assigning like positive or negative to anything in my life. Things just are. Things just happen. There's no positive, there's no negative. So for example, when my sister passed away, at that time this is the worst thing that could ever happen to me. I'll never make it past this. I don't know what to do. This is terrible. I want to die as well, because I just don't know how to even comprehend everything that's going on, and this is terrible. But now, a year later, and going through all these experiences I have where I've moved and I've experienced my true self, that was neither good nor bad at the time. Maybe it made me sad, but it was an opportunity to learn something about myself. It was, whether it's God or the universe or whatever you want to call it, was just kind of like, now's your time, figure it out. And a lot of people, I think, are like, well, someone passed away, that's inherently bad, that's a bad thing. While it's sad, that person's never really gone. The person's memory lives on right up here, and I'm sure you understand this all too well. But coming to the realization, hey buddy, my hand probably tastes super good, right? Coming to the realization that the reason that things are good or bad is because we say that. Things just are. In the grand scheme of things, the biggest earthquake in the world could cause a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful ravine. A volcano erupting and killing millions of people could cause, erosion that makes the mountain even more beautiful. So you can look at things in a good light, a bad light, or you can just look at things completely subjectively and be like, okay, this happened. This is what I have to do to get past it. Not get past it per se, but survive and to keep thriving and growing and learning. I'm trying to explain that to anyone here. They're just like, well, no, things are good and things are bad. I'm like, well, no, they're not. Things just.
I know what you mean.
I
encounter that a lot.
Yeah.
The whether it's a human quality or a regional quality of folks where we live or something along those lines, people are desperate to assign a quality of like, my day is good or my day is bad.
Yeah, because it gives you control over something you have no control over.
Yeah, and that's a certain beauty right there, that I don't have control.
Yeah.
That I have the illusion of control.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
The best way to learn that you're not in control is to live outside. In my opinion, because when I was camping, there would be days where it would just be pouring, and I'd be like, "This is so shitty. I'm getting soaked. All my stuff is getting ruined. What do? I can't go inside. There's nowhere to go inside." And then at one point, I was like, "You know what? It doesn't matter because it's raining. I'm not going to be able to stop it by thinking that this is a bad thing. So I'm just going to deal with it." So I figured out a way to survive.
100%. Speaking of that, take the element of coldness or rain or whatever, and just align with it. Have you ever heard of that guy, the Iceman, Wim Hof?
Oh yeah, Wim Hof's crazy. Is he the guy that hiked to the top of Everest like in his underwear or like in no shoes or something?
Yes.
Yeah.
And scientists are like, dude, you should have died. You should have gotten hypothermia. People die on the mountain all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for him to lay down, Bub. And for him to do what he does, both with setting records in the cold, ice water, swimming, climbing mountains, his whole idea of like, I go to the cold. The cold is not hurting me. I go to the cold.
Yeah.
And that's just like so zen. I don't know
Yeah.
what is more yoga or zen than breathing yourself into this like strength to overcome extreme cold. I'm a big pussy about extreme cold. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I will bundle up, scarf, balaclava. It could just be
Everything, yeah.
As soon as it's freezing, I'm justifying wearing a ski mask and cleaning off my car. Like, it's just, oh man, I don't know. Maybe it's that Sicilian blood. I just picture like island life.
Yeah.
And I would love to be living that reggae life too. But he's still a very inspirational guy. The idea that the force of his breath is overriding his body's natural tendency to shut down.
Yeah.
To literally die on the mountain. Like happens to many people with gear and all the shit.
And clothes.
In training and stuff. It's,
Yeah.
He's inspiring in the way of he's just like, he reminds you that you think humans have these limitations. It's
Yeah.
like, no.
He's rewriting human physiology. Like,
For real.
he's
pushing the
people
boundary.
are like, oh well, maybe you can survive for that long.
I
up
know,
on top of
right?
the hill. It's
I
crazy.
love anything that makes a scientist go, huh? You know, I'm
Yeah.
not sure about that one. Whether it's why does gravity work the way it works, or why is 95% of the measurable universe dark energy?
Yeah.
It's like, well, I don't know, but
We don't know what it is.
I love it.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff is great.
Yeah, he's an inspiration because you can overcome anything. That's just what he's saying, you know. And we are no different than him. We are literally the exact same matter.
For sure.
Different DNA, but there's nothing that distinguishes him from us, except for the fact that he's from like Switzerland or Sweden or Norway.
Yeah, I
or
can't say
somewhere.
exactly where he's from. I think I read it somewhere in that.
Somewhere in that area where they, you know, where it's really cold, but yeah, it's really cold here.
Dude, it's cray.
I don't like this cold. This is colder than I've been in 8 months. So, you know, I would never be able to survive in this climate again, outside especially.
The one blog post I read of yours laid out a very scary, fearful moment with Coyote.
Oh yeah.
And then a follow-up, not so scary, more controlled, Sherpa and everybody through the experience type of journey.
Yeah.
Was that cool to have a...
That was one of the coolest experiences I've had. And the reason, I remember the first time that I ran into, so when I first moved to this communal living space that I lived on, it was called Dragon's Nest. I lived on like the outer ring. I was living in my Toyota at the time. I was camping out of the back of it. And there was a bathhouse where I could go take a shower, which was really like a 5-star hotel setup. It was beautiful. So I wasn't really roughing it at this time. Never really roughed it too hard.
I feel you.
But, you know, I was still living outside or in
Yeah.
a car. So this one night I'm walking down, there's this access road I have to walk through the woods to get down to the bathhouse, which is about a half mile away from where I was staying. And it's about midnight. I believe it was the 4th of July, because I was it was the national park that day. I hung out and all by myself and saw some of the most beautiful places I've ever been, and it was exceptional. That night I got back from my cousin's house. She lives about 10 miles away from me at the time. And I'm walking down this access road with a headlamp on, and all of a sudden 2 coyotes walk out right in front of me. And at the time I thought, oh no, these things are going to eat me, which coyotes are pretty harmless animals, right?
Okay.
Unless you have like a dog with you or something that could, like if you have a kid, they'll just like eat the kid or something. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I like to tell people.
Problem.
Yeah. So I was terrified, and I'm like looking at them, and I realize there's 2 more behind me. So these things are surrounding me, trying to figure out like, yo, what is this thing doing here?
Right.
And I'm shaking with fear, and I could have ran or I could have walked. And I realized that anytime I would move the headlamp, they would follow it. They would look where I was putting the light. So I turned off the light, and I just walked, pitch black, and I could feel them and hear them around my ankles and my feet. They were within 5 feet of me, just. And then they would howl, and it was brutally terrifying. When a coyote screams, it sounds like a guy that is insane, screaming, laughing. It's if you ever get the chance, look up just like coyote screams.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, you'd think it was like a bunch of people about to burn someone on the stake. They're like, whoop, whoop, whoop. And it's terrifying.
Yikes.
And that happened like 3 or 4 more times. But then when my friend came out to visit me, myself, and my friend Michael also went to the national park that same day, a different day, but the day that this incident happened. And I'd been living outside. This was the beginning of October 2nd or 3rd, I want to say. So I'd been living outside for quite some time. I'd come in contact with like 2 or 3 bears. I've seen many cats at this time, like mountain lions within 30 feet, which a mountain lion will just fucking kill you.
For real.
They say if a mountain lion jumps on you, you just give everything you have because you're probably going to die. Yeah. They're big.
That's scary. And they know how to grab your neck and just ice you.
And you would never know you don't know they're there. And if you see them, they want you to see them. If they don't want you to see them, they're going to kill you.
Yikes.
So the night that Nikki, Michael, and I were all having a fire at my campsite, Michael is a really awesome dude. He lives in a wall tent down the hill from me. He lived in a wall tent down the hill. Still does. I moved. And he had just moved to where we were living. He lived on the farm before that in his tent, his wall tent, which is about the size of this bedroom. So we're all hanging out, having fun. We'd just taken a bunch of dabs at this time, and we heard it right behind us, a yip of a coyote, very loud, maybe 20 yards behind us on the hill. Michael puts his flashlight up. I said, "Turn your light off right now. Everything's going to be okay. Just be quiet." And Michael and I live outside. Nikki is not someone who lives outside.
Right on.
She's very smart and very brave, but she's not someone who understands how to, deal with this. No one really knows how to deal with this.
Easy to panic when you hear something you're not familiar with.
Exactly. And I said, "Just turn the light off. They'll go away." 10 minutes later, they were gone. We went back to having fun around the fire, hanging out. And then I got Nikki and I an Airbnb on the same property. So her and I had to walk up through the woods, through this little access road to the house. So we're like, "Good night, Michael. See you, whatever." And it's out of a movie. It was crazy. Nikki and I are walking up the hill, and to the left there's a huge, dark, deep forest. To the right there's a ridge that overlooks the whole property, and there's like a bunch of trailers there that people are working on or whatever. So we're walking through, and to my right, up to the right, I heard it. It was something rustling around, and turns out it was a coyote. It was about 4 of them were just walking in front of us. And I was like, okay, this isn't that scary. This happens all the time. I could sense the fear coming from my friend at this time. And I was kind of in this situation. And the reason I wrote about it is because when this first happened, I was terrified. I was so scared. And then when it happened this time, I was just like, well, this is what I need to do to get past it. She doesn't know what to do, but just stick with me, grab onto my arm here, and we'll walk right through this, and nothing's going to happen. And we got inside, and it was fine.
Yeah.
And I knew nothing would happen. Like, they wouldn't have attacked us. We didn't, no reason to attack us. We were just hanging out. But yeah, seeing just like how one experience with the coyotes, maybe another experience, kind of changes the way, bless you.
Thank you, sir.
Changed the way that I interacted with them after that.
For real.
Was pretty awesome.
Gotta be.
Yeah.
Because that, like you said, it's as you experience a little more wolfman, and you're a little more familiar with them being around and their tendencies, and it's good to know what kind of animal is straight up gonna go for your throat, like a mountain lion or a cougar or something.
Yeah.
Versus a coyote or a bear. It's like, this is all a spectrum of danger.
Yeah, that's a whole other danger I live with almost every day. Just like on the farm, we've seen cougars, we've seen bears, we've seen elk, we've seen coyotes are rampant on the farm. They're everywhere.
Do they ever get animals? Are you folks only vegetables?
Yeah. None of the coyotes have gotten any animals that I'm aware of. I know of a bunch of people that have lost dogs to eagles or like owls because they'll just swoop down and grab them.
Damn.
Yeah, so I taught Penny.
Predatory birds are crazy, man.
The birds out there are massive. Huge, terrifying birds. Everything out there is kind of terrifying. But yeah, so you kind of have to be prepared for...
Go lay down.
Go lay down, buddy. Go on. Go. I'll pet you. Fine. You kind of have to be prepared for like, oh, something bad could happen at any time. But not even bad. Again, something could happen and I could have an encounter with an animal and I need to know how to react to this.
For real.
Like I always have a knife. Like
I was gonna say, I was about to ask you, knife or a gun around?
I don't keep firearms around just because I don't have one out there. I have a couple here that I'm gonna try to bless you. I'm gonna try to figure out how to traverse back. Maybe I could just check one in a bag. I'm not sure. I don't know how that works.
Yeah.
But I do have quite a few knives. I have a 7-inch K-bar that when I'm hiking in the national forest, I
Lay down.
lay down, dude.
You're okay.
Okay.
My understanding is that knives in checked bags are fine.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, I didn't bring any knives back here with me. I left them all there. I have quite a few.
I see. Right on.
Yeah. I was talking about bringing a firearm in a checked bag, but I don't think that's legal.
Yeah, I don't know how that works. You can definitely like transport them. You just gotta like declare it, and I'm sure there's more obviously strict regulation.
Yeah.
But I've never had to do so.
Yeah. I don't really know what I would do in that situation, so I'm just gonna buy one out there. I think because it would be nice to have one, because I am in the middle of nowhere with that door that if anyone wanted to come in and kill me, they could just pull on it hard enough and come in and murder me.
I know what you're saying. That's a certain practice in surrender, right?
Yeah.
A certain faith in the surrounding fellow man.
Yeah.
To not
kill me.
Dog you.
Yeah.
That, you know.
Which they wouldn't even, they would have no need to. What's he doing?
I don't know. Being silly.
Good boy, I love him.
I'm trying to hug you and play at the same time. Animals are the best.
They are. I feel more. Here's the thing. I say this a lot, and people are like, "Yeah, it's dumb." If I'm walking through the woods and I encounter an animal, I'm trying to think of how to say this. Okay, if I'm walking through the woods and I encounter an animal, it's like, okay, there's an animal here. I could probably figure out what he's going to do just by sensing his energy and feeling how things are going and kind of thinking in my head like, okay, he just stumbled upon me. He hasn't been following me. He hasn't been doing this. But if I run into a person in the middle of the woods by themselves, that's sometimes more scary to me because a person has ulterior motives, right? They have different intentions than an animal wants to do one of two things: eat or rest.
I can dig it.
Or hunt.
Sure.
So it has a much more limited idea of what it wants to do. It doesn't even have an idea of what it wants to do. It just knows what it has to do. It's all instinctual, and you can figure that out. I believe animals have emotions and feelings, but at their core root, I think they just want to do what they have to do to survive. Humans, on the other hand, are very, they can look at you and be like, yeah, you should come with me, everything will be okay. And the next thing you know, you're being eaten by a group of people in like the middle of, like Midsummer, which I've never seen, but they're killing you or whatever happens in that film. But
definitely, yes. Some killing takes place.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, killing.
I figured that's what happened when I saw all the blood.
That's the thing, man, is like, Most Dangerous Game. You ever read The Most Dangerous Game?
No, it sounds...
It's like this guy that's got this hunting land, and he'll pay crazy amounts of money and, like, I guess capture people, if I'm remembering correctly, and they'll be put into this kind of, like, fenced game. I don't even think it's fenced. It might have been an island where he hunts men. So, let's say 3 or 4 of them, let them loose, and then go around and hunt them down.
That's terrifying.
If they were, like, a deer in a protected game space or something, and definitely terrifying for sure. But you talk about how humankind can be way more crafty. They can have these motives. They can try to get the upper hand on you or try to
because they're fueled by emotion. They're fueled by wants and not even needs. I don't think most humans know what they need to survive. They know what they want to survive, which are two completely different things.
They could lull you into like a false sense of security,
which a lot of people do, and then they just sacrifice you to Beelzebub or whatever. You're dead.
Dude, exactly.
Yeah.
I think about movies like that where there's like a cult or an old school group that's like, oh, we have this ritual thing, we've been doing it forever, but they don't pick apart why they've been doing it forever.
Yeah.
They're just like, the fact that it's been observed for a long time makes it totally cool. And it's just like, are we still that bound to the idea of momentum? I have all this momentum with this practice, I gotta keep it up. It's like, you're sacrificing people. What are you doing?
Yeah, why are you doing this?
Whooping your eyeballs. Is that benefiting anything?
Probably not. No, yeah.
And that's tough. I mean, who's the arbiter of what really benefits things beyond this go around? But that's just cray. It's just cray.
Yeah. The world is crazy, man. It's a very crazy place.
Oh, you're okay. You're okay.
It's okay.
Lay down, Bob.
For the people listening in and not watching, there's a very cute dog who really wants to play right now.
It's good information.
Just in case they're like, what is that noise? Is that a coyote? No, it's
Right.
what kind of a coyote? They're pretty similar.
Husky man. Siberian man. Have you seen, outside of coyotes, have you seen any like actual wolves? Do they have wolves in that region?
I don't think so. I'm not sure. I would love to come face to face with one. I would love to like.
It'd be another one of those like exhilarating but somewhat frightful moments.
I have this. So whenever I left Pittsburgh, I think I told you this. I like hitched a ride with a friend, this woman that I had just met like 10 days prior on Tinder. And I drove out to Wyoming with her, and then I flew from Wyoming to Washington. And we stopped in like a bunch of different national parks. And my goal when I would see an animal, which is so fucking stupid, was to get as physically close as possible before they got spooked or hit me.
Okay.
So I did it with mountain goats. I got about 12 feet away from like 3 mountain goats. And then they like looked at me, and I was like, oh no, I gotta go. So I love the thrill of being around an animal and being close to it, because
Go here.
you think he maybe has to go outside?
That's a good point. Just take him outside. Come back. Who's your boy?
But I would love to encounter a wolf. A wolf. Is it wolf? Wolf?
Wolf the singular?
Wolf.
The plural?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would love to encounter a wolf in the wild and just kind of
Yeah, I don't know.
like stare it down and be like, whatever happens here, it happens here. Because I could probably fight a wolf, maybe, with a knife.
I know, right? Do you ever see, what was that, The Gray? Liam Neeson?
Yeah.
Straight up gets into a battle with the alpha wolf. It's like, yo, you think you can take me? He's like, I'm going to build these Wolverine claws. And
Yeah.
That was intense.
That was
They did a
very
good
intense.
job capturing the scariness of being alone in the woods with some
Scary ass
big
animals.
bad creatures around you.
Yeah.
For sure.
But are they bad? Are they just big and
It's a good point.
doing their thing, you know?
Right. Am I infringing on their wild space with my building of human buildings?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Wildlife. You're okay, Bubba. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you told me about foraging
Yeah.
for some earth-grown mushrooms. How's that? Is that easy to identify? Is that tough to know what's bad for you?
Well, when I forage for mushrooms on my own, I'm looking for one specific kind. It's called a chanterelle mushroom. They're
Okay.
beautiful yellow, orange, gold, white mushrooms that taste like, oh, they're so good. They have the consistency of chicken almost. If you eat them raw, which I typically do. I like to eat most things raw if I can. That was a dog. But then there's the whole other aspect of like the psilocybes that grow out there wild. There's
Right.
quite a lot of them that do. And I've never really foraged them on my own, because you can pick the wrong ones and then you're shitting out your kidneys and your liver. You're dead.
Dude, for real.
Yeah, so I have a really good friend out there whose name I won't mention, who is very, very astute when it comes to the psilocybes. Like,
Right.
he and I have gone out and he will be like, hey, this one, and
It's
this
got
one.
to take a special knowledge and eye to
Yeah,
probably identify.
yeah, because they're all different kinds. You know, you have your cyanescens, you have your Amanita muscarias. You have, if you eat too much of that, your heart will just explode.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah. I like nibbled one once, and it was just kind of like, oh. And
I
then
saw a video once of a bear in the wild, like, came across some mushrooms, and I think they were muscaria, and just with the white dots, and
yeah, the red and the white
like,
dots.
ate some, and then just proceeded to roll around and trip out. It'd be something to be wildlife and not really know, and you see something, and you're like, huh, never saw this one before. Taste, and then to have a lasting effect for some hours like that. There was one with like a jaguar, ate some leaves that contained DMT or something. And looked like he was having a pretty good time.
Yeah.
But you're right that you can eat the wrong thing.
You can eat the wrong thing, and everyone out there will tell you that. If I say like I'm going to forage for mushrooms, which is that's just my excuse to go hiking, because I'm going to go look for some mushrooms to eat. And not even the psilocybes. I rarely have foraged for those just because I'm so afraid. I know what I'm looking for: chanterelles and matsutakis as well. But because out there on the peninsula, it's the mushroom capital of the world.
That's
There are
awesome.
more mushrooms that grow on the Olympic Peninsula than anywhere else.
It's fascinating what mushrooms do different than plants. I know
Yeah.
very little about it, but from what I read and what I hear people that are experts talk about, like that Paul Stamets guy,
Uh-huh.
mycologist, that dude's fascinating.
He lives like an hour south of me.
Does he really?
Uh-huh.
He's been, if it's mushroom capital of the world, I mean, that's his game, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like figured out a way to reverse colony collapse disorder with bees.
Yeah.
By using a special type of mycelium that the
Yeah.
bees go and coat themselves in and they go back into the hive and it's not as like detrimental.
Yeah.
It's a big problem, the bees, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's so easy to be in your daily circle and forget about our ecosystem being so fragile and magical and of this like we act like we know shit. We don't know shit. You know what I mean? One of the funniest reasons for me to always subscribe to the we know nothing is you look at like when you're a kid and you're in school and they give you the food pyramid. They're like, yo, this is the right amount of stuff to eat, and then you look like with a little bit even more data and you're just like, oh, okay, you were tripping. You have no idea what to put in.
You just made that up. You just made that up, dog. Like, that's not true. I eat fruit all day, every day, and I'm doing great.
Dude, for real.
You know? But yeah, so, mycelium and mushrooms, it's fascinating. There's a really good book that helps identify mushrooms by David, or I think his name's David Aurora, I don't know, and his last name's Aurora. David might be me making that up. But it's called Mushrooms Demystified, and it's like one of the best guides on edible mushrooms, not psilocybes, because he's against psilocybin, as most people were in the mid-70s.
Fair enough.
Which was a bummer whenever I realized after I spent the money on the book. But whatever, it's fine.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Learn the stuff.
Yeah. So now I can go out with this. It's like the size of a Bible. It's like the mushroom Bible. It's full of like all this information, and it's really, really fun to take out and find some mushrooms and just eat them.
Dude,
you know?
America. You know, this is America. If I want to grow some ganja or eat some psychedelic mushrooms, the government has no right to tell me what I can or cannot use to alter my consciousness.
Yeah.
Fuck out of here.
Well, they're just plants. You can't.
Ridiculous.
It's really sad because
plants that have been used by hundreds of cultures for thousands of years, man.
Yeah, I mean, so one of the main when I went out to Washington, I was very depressed. I was on a pretty high dose antidepressant. I was out of shape. I was eating garbage. I was just fucking sad all the time. I went out there and I met someone who was like, "You should try microdosing," and I did not have health insurance at the time. So I was like on this, oh my God, I'm going to run out of my antidepressant and then I'm just going to go crazy and lose my mind.
I see, yeah.
So I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to get off this medication by microdosing every 3 days with psilocybin.
How did that go?
It changed my life. It was the most...
3 days on, break?
No. I would do 1 day on, take 3 days off.
Got it.
I would take a pretty large dose.
I feel you though. Maybe not super sub-perceptual. Interesting. I have a lot of thoughts on that. Here, let's take the dog out and we'll come back up here.
Okay.
I'm going to let this run.
Yeah.
And then just trim. We'll take you outside, Bub. Don't even trip.
Outside, dude. You got to go potty or something?
I'm not a perfectionist, Bubba. I'm not tripping. Come on.
I ain't tripping, though.
Dude, I've heard people in Silicon Valley, like the programmers and shit, microdose like cray-cray to the bank to try to get like an upper edge on the thing.
Oh, yeah.
And the connections. Come on, Noah. Silly doge.
Back to it.
Silly doge.
Silly dog boy.
One thing I never did in terms of timing or like regimen was any of that microdose experience. It's always been like a pretty heavy journey into the altar that is that altered state of consciousness, you know?
Yeah.
But I always learn something, even if I have really challenging feelings.
I mean, psilocybin is the main reason I'm not depressed anymore. It's the main reason that I may or may not have tripped a couple days ago. New Year's Eve. Because, as the story goes, it's not, I'm not trying to implicate myself.
I understand.
But even then, like before an experience, I always have these reservations about like, oh, do I want to go home? Do I not want to go home? What's going on? What's this? What's that? And then I did that. And now I'm just like at peace. And I feel it's like how to, they literally change your mind. Like that Michael Pollan book says, like how to change your mind is and I respect them and I revere them and I love them because they hold a lot of secrets and a lot of power, a lot more power than people think. You know, like when I was younger, whenever I did mushrooms the first time when I ate them, I was with you. Like,
we were in the apartment with Steven.
Yeah, 6 years ago. And that was terrifying. The whole experience was terrifying. But the reason, you and I almost killed each other because we were yelling. Do you remember that?
I don't really remember us being angry, but I remember saying that there's been a misunderstanding.
That's all you were like, there's been a misunderstanding. And Steve and I were like, what are you talking
misunderstanding.
About? Like, no, dude, what are you talking about? Yeah, that was a rough one. I mean, I think because I didn't understand what I was getting myself into, and I didn't respect the fact that my mind was about to be completely rewired and
we also didn't fully comprehend what was about to happen.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
We were like, let's just party and have fun. And
sure.
If you remember, it took a while for them to kick in. It took like 2 hours.
That sounds about right. I don't have a real firm.
I can eat them, and I will start feeling the effects in 20 to 30 minutes.
Oh, okay, right on. Yeah,
you know,
like eat the actual shroom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, the time you're picturing in the past, was that a time with those little Nintendo controllers?
No, this was with you and I.
Yeah.
Where we actually ate them, and it was Steve and Michael Longhorn was there.
Yes, right.
We actually ate.
I'm with you now.
Caps and stems.
Yes. There are two particular ones in that apartment. I'm just trying to make sure I'm thinking about the right one.
I don't think I was with the one with the Nintendo controllers.
Maybe you weren't. I think that was also Longhorn who knew somebody who knew somebody.
Yeah.
But yeah, they looked like little NES controllers. And it was baked into the chocolate. It was like a chocolate bar.
Yeah.
And then you
ate it. The truffles.
Away we go.
I didn't have as much of a powerful experience on the truffles as I did if I ate like a big 5 gram dose of mushrooms.
I feel you.
You know.
Yeah.
4 grams is usually my go-to right now.
You use the phrase, that's like single very important thing, magic mushroom experience, to not feeling depressed. And I can relate to that, man, for sure. I was like much in need of shaking things up when I was living in Texas after Dad passed, and it was like, oh, Nova. It was just, you wanted to know that everything was cool. And that's precisely what you learn in that state, is that everything's fine.
Yeah.
You know,
everything's
there's a lot I don't understand, and there's a lot I might not get the answer to, but everything goes.
Everything keeps on trucking on.
Exactly.
You know, it keeps on moving.
Exactly.
You know, I'm a very big proponent of psilocybin, and I feel like it's something that should be researched heavily and utilized in the proper. Not just to like, I want to get fucked up. No, you should never go into that experience that way. And I've had people that are like, yo, you want to party with some shrooms? And I'm like, no.
Right.
Do
I would
not
like to
do
learn
that.
something about myself on some shrooms.
Yeah, I would love to.
Environment.
Yeah, in a safe environment where I'm not hurting anyone. No one's going to get hurt. Someone is there to take care of me. And I think they're a tremendous benefit from the earth. They can do so many different mushrooms in general, all of them, as a fungi, as a family, as a species. They all have a power that is just very visceral and very real. Not even a lot of them don't have psychedelic effects, but a lot of them have effects on your body and the way that your body reacts to certain things. And it just so happens that the one that helps fix your mind makes you, you know, kind of lose your grip of reality for a while.
I know, right? And to look back into an ancient culture and see that they also had a value for this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And a reverence for it, and like a shamanic respect for it.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's peyote cactus in the Native American culture, or regular old magic mushrooms in a natural sense. And you got the people in the Amazon with the ayahuasca. Ayahuasca translates to vine of the dead.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like the most soothing psychedelic journey, but to feel that death of your ego and then come back and be like, okay, I'm not everything I'm cracked up to be. Do you know what I mean? I might think that this is it.
This is not it. This is not it.
I don't feel that way.
I've had.
Do you still? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I wasn't going anywhere. I don't think.
I was wondering about fear of dying.
Yeah.
With mushrooms, did you ever feel like, oh my god, I'm gonna die, and then you just somehow like came to terms with the fact that I don't welcome death, nor do I run from it.
I've learned to embrace it through the use of them, through the use of a lot of different things, actually, whether that's therapy or just talking to my friends or writing, especially, or
Yes.
contemplating the death of my sister. I have a lot of different thoughts on death than most people, I believe. I don't know if we actually die. I don't know if we're actually even alive, which sounds crazy.
No, I can dig the crazy. I think about this stuff.
Yeah, but like, okay, so for example, my sister passed away it was December 14th. And since that, December 14th, 2018,
Right.
which is like the day that, I call it the day the music died. It's the day that everything in my life became apparent to me and became like, oh my God, this is, it started me down the path of like, this is who I am now. Bless you.
Thank you, sir.
You know, that was really, and then it opened up this whole, all these wounds of things that had happened. And with that, I have had more of a sense of my sister being with me than I have in a long time. Going through that, I could feel her presence and I could feel her energy and I could feel her wisdom. And she wasn't, you know, the smartest person in the world, but she was my sister, so she was important. And she's guided me through a lot of stuff. And I've not spoken to her, but I've heard her and I've been with her out there. And
I love it.
And that's why, especially out on the farm, because it's so peaceful and it's so quiet. And she's back in the earth, and that's the earth, and it's the same earth that she came from, and the same earth that I came from. You know, even if you subscribe to Christianity as religion, you know, that's where that comes from. Man was made from dirt, and in most major religions, we're all the same matter. Like you said earlier in the car, we're all we're all leaves on the same tree. We're all this collected, I don't know if it's collective consciousness or just this connected, like an offshoot of the same being.
I know, right? There's a oneness to it.
There is. And I feel it with certain people, especially. Like I have some friends who I can just like sit with and not even say a word. And it's like, we get it.
Yeah.
We're understanding one another. We can just chill and
right.
No words need to be said because we understand this. And that's what it is with how I said, I don't know if we're actually alive or dead, because again, I think about words all the time because I write them fairly often.
Right.
So like alive or dead are opposites, but what do they even really mean? Do they have any real intrinsic meaning, or is it a meaning that we gave to it?
Sure.
How do we know that our version of dead is not just passed on to another plane of existence that is running parallel with this one?
Right.
Not anywhere else. It's we're here, it's here, and they're same or different timelines. You know, but I'm rambling about.
No, I totally feel you. You talk about how you know for sure you can't detect and measure this sort of thing. There's so much subjective about it. Your personal feeling. Like, have you ever had a near-death experience?
Quite a few.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Like something where you like literally almost died and you came back kind of like...
Well,
I'm not saying like dead on a hospital table and then you came back, per se. Something where you had a, what's the word? Scary, almost death, and then a somehow like renewed sense of awe and appreciation for your fragile being.
Well. The one that happened, I was young, I was living in Texas, I was stupid, I was in a car accident. I was in the back of a car, we were driving down this back road, and we flipped into a ditch, and the car flipped 4 times, and I didn't have a seatbelt on. And I remember, as the car was landing on the roof of the car hit the ground, I fell down, and I heard my neck crack, and I said, that's it, my neck's broken. And somehow, some way, I did not have a seatbelt on, sorry Mom, I got out of the car and walked away. And the car flipped 4 times. No one was hurt. Yeah. And bless you. And at the time, it wasn't a very meaningful experience because I was young. I was 19. And I was dumb. Still, I'm not the smartest guy, but I'm not, I understand this now. Looking back on that, I probably could have died or gotten severely injured, which I get severely injured all the time. It's like my thing is to get hurt or end up in the hospital because of my own doing. No health issues, just like being a dumbass. But looking back on it, I think about it quite a lot, and I'm probably going to write about it soon. That experience really, really was a pretty powerful one, because I look back at pictures of the car and it's all flat with one another. Like there's no, yeah, and yeah, thinking about that is tough, because I could have died, and then my life would have been well, not even over. I'm not sure about that.
Sure.
But other people's lives would have been completely different because of that.
Definitely.
You know, that's the other thing, is if someone, and another reason, like on a more practical standpoint, that I don't know if we actually live or die, is that whenever we die, I feel like our impact affects people more. You know what I mean? If my sister had not passed away, I would still be living in Pittsburgh and lying about everything, and in a relationship that was not healthy whatsoever, and drinking too much alcohol, and not being content and happy.
Yeah.
But when my sister died, it was just like a wake up call that was like, hey, yo, do this, that, and the other. And I see how everyone's life is different around me because of it.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and I'm sure maybe you feel the same way about your father. I'm not sure, but
definitely.
You know, like
there are parts of you that feel like that wake up call, and then there are parts of you that are very sad, but there's also gifts that come with that.
Yeah.
A certain like renewed sense of appreciation for life.
For everything.
Oh
you
yeah,
know?
Definitely.
And that's what a lot of my grief of going through that has been, is realizing that Courtney's gone, but her impact is lasting.
Absolutely, yes.
You know?
And the way that I'm moved by watching you pour it into a blog post, you know, that's amazing. You're taking your waves, using word to color your waves, and then I'm riding them too by reading it, and it's great. It just,
I appreciate you reading
anything
it.
that moves you is art, and that type of writing is artistic as it gets.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I don't do a lot of writing, and when I read someone's account of the kinds of things that you account, it's just a treat.
Yeah, that's an honor coming from you, because you read a lot of books and a lot of.
I'm glad you are doing what you're doing. I'm glad to know you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to get the opportunity to sit with you, it's just like life goes so fast, and grief is one of those things that has such a stigma.
Yeah.
No one wants to talk about it. You know, especially with Dad's death by suicide, it's like that's like stigmatized to the extreme. People think you're like bound to do the same thing or whatever, and it's like, I'm not my blood.
Yeah.
I'm not my family. I'm not my thoughts. I'm not Alex. I'm a spirit body in a temporary body. You know, and when I get the opportunity to discuss grief with somebody that knows what that's like, it's like, it's a blessing in its own way, to try to make someone else be moved by the fact that it's okay to miss, it's okay to feel sad about a person's demise.
Yeah.
But that demise, is it even that?
It's only a demise because we call it a demise.
Right? We've assigned it that quality because we can't tell what goes on when that body stops being animated by its soul. Or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Spirit, soul, whatever you want to call it. Totally. It's weird, because there is a very negative stigma around grief. And I've talked to some of my friends are still very like, I can't talk about that.
Sure.
And I'm like, it's okay.
For sure.
Like they'll ask me like very like, oh, so your sister, and I'll be like, just ask, like, let's talk about it, because it's something that needs to be spoken about, you know, and especially like a lot of people talk about like the death of and this is not to discredit anyone's grief whatsoever, but a lot of people talk about the death of a husband, the death of a parent, the death of a child, but not many people talk about the death of a sibling, because it's very people just feel like they don't even know how to approach it.
I know what you mean.
You know?
I feel that way when I hear about parents that had to bury a child of theirs.
Yeah.
You know, like that's got to be super heavy. Most everybody with natural lifespans might see their parents die and have to bury their parents, you know.
But burying a child, you brought it.
Oh, yeah. That's not how that's supposed to go.
No, I understand. I mean, I'm watching my parents deal with it every single day. And it's really, really challenging, because I can't even begin to understand how that feels. You know, my mom lost 2 siblings when she was a little bit older than me, so she knows exactly how I feel. She knows how I feel, and I'm not reacting in the same way. I'm not doing the same things, but I see what she's doing, what she's going through, and I can't even begin to think, like, I know what that's like.
I know, yeah. It's weird how, like, you're going through what you're going through, and they're going through what they're going through, and as much as you share part of it, it's also very different.
It's completely different.
You know what I mean? It's my mother, my brother, and myself that are mostly moved by Anthony's death, and it's like, the way we all do things, the way we need to do them is very interesting to me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It doesn't paint a picture of how everybody is going to process something. It's weird. It's weird.
Yeah. It's strange. Yeah, I don't understand it. And I don't think it's meant to be understood, because I don't think it's just a thought and an emotion and a process of thinking through things, you know. We only assign grief, again, we only assign grief a negative word because that's all we know how to describe it. But I think grief can be very positive.
I definitely would be a big advocate for attempting to use language in a way that was meaningful to highlight the positive side of feeling grief.
Yeah.
Definitely.
There is a positive side.
If there's not a book already called Gifts of Death, like, that might be a good one. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or something along those lines of talking about what it can teach you, the experience of that.
Yeah.
You know, you got to be present enough to want to be taught those lessons. You know, I'm sure it's also easy to push away and hide those feelings and not want to go there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I felt like the condition of Dad dying and me having to return to Central Texas, at least for the time that I did, brought everything to the surface. There was no, oh, you're going to just ignore this. That wasn't even possible, even if I wanted to. You know what I mean? It was like, it was just one of those things that just unfolded. You know, whether you were ready for it to unfold or not, there it was.
Yeah.
You know?
It's just one day you wake up and everything is completely and utterly different.
A little bit.
Doesn't make any sense.
Not quite the same as it used to be.
Yeah.
But also very, very much better. You know what I mean? Better in its own way.
Yeah.
I had a passenger in my car, and he told me, I think I had been reading the Michael Pollan book about psychedelics, and so he saw it there, like, near my gear shift. He was like, what are you reading? I was like, oh, I'm reading about this book on the new science of psychedelics in a way that might be used with psychotherapy, you know, and the idea of partnering, taking a dose of something psychedelic to alter your consciousness, and then you sitting with a therapist during that time, it really puts you in this, like, what's the word? Disarmed, more vulnerable, and more likely to get good work done talking to your therapist because you're somewhat lubricated by the psychedelic, you know what I mean? The term they used a lot in the book was psychedelic assisted psychotherapy, you know what I mean? Although I've never myself been into a therapist's office while feeling mushrooms.
Yeah.
I've unpacked a lot of what's happened to me on those trips with a therapist, whether it's my one in Texas or my one here in Pennsylvania. And you talked about how more recently you have these feelings, you take the trip, and now you're more at peace with it.
Yeah.
You go in and you talk to somebody, and you're like, I'm more at peace with this. And they're like, well, what do you mean? And you start to unpack why you feel that way, and it's just...
Totally.
It's a real gift, for sure.
Yeah, and I don't want to say that I'm using the psilocybin as a Band-Aid.
Right.
It's not a Band-Aid, and that needs to be known by a lot of people. Drugs, for example, are a Band-Aid, right? If I have a disease, they give me a drug, a piece of medication. It's a Band-Aid for something. It's not going to heal me. Psilocybin isn't a Band-Aid, it isn't a drug, it isn't a medicine, it's a plant. That's all it is it's a plant that knows exactly what you need to work through whatever it is you're working through. So in fact, you are not covering up the feelings that you're feeling. You are full on facing them.
Right.
Which is where I get kind of frustrated, where people are like, oh, well, psilocybin is this, you shouldn't do that, it's dangerous for you. When in fact it is a very safe practice, one that is completely and 110% natural, and one that has changed my life and given me a lot of perspective on things that I never thought I would have perspective on. And it's made me it makes you face yourself and your emotions at a faster and more like vulnerable rate.
I can dig it.
You know?
I can dig it for sure.
Yeah.
I think about
Pardon me.
Oh, you're good. I think about a lot how, back to your point about, are you really alive or are you really dead? Am I asleep or am I awake? Because I've had dreams. I'll tell you about this dream. Not this past Thanksgiving or the one before that, but like the first Thanksgiving that occurred after my dad passed. I had a dream that I was in this room, sleeping, as I was, and I'm laying there in bed, and it was as if Dad, like, visited me
Mm-hmm.
and gave me a hug, and the hug was like an electricity, and I could feel my head on the pillow going like this, and like a and I gave him the hug, and I was like, I miss you, and he was like, I miss you, and then I woke up, and that was my Thanksgiving morning, and I was so grateful.
Yeah.
It was like a little dreamland experience, and I've seen it more than once in a dream, and that's usually what happens. It's like a hug, and I'm like, I miss you, I wish you well wherever it is that you are right now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? As
Yeah.
much as it's not here all the time, you're
Yeah.
here in spirit, but you're elsewhere. You know what I mean? And I don't know the slightest condition of that elsewhere. I can't glean that from the dream space, but to have that visit and that electricity and just be buzzing that whole day, it was like, I was very thankful for that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah, it's a weird experience and a weird thing to navigate is the whole process of it, because there's no end to it. There's no end goal. You're not working towards when you're grieving. I don't think it ever ends. I think it. For me, when my sister passed away, I could have done one of two things. I could have let it define me and make me a person that was bitter and sad all the time and did not want to grow and didn't know how to understand it. Or it could change me. Change how I was defined. It would change what defines me rather. Because now I think of things in a much more open and I want to understand this. And that's what the death of someone does to you, is it makes you realize that there's something else going on and I don't even need to figure it out. I just need to try to understand it and see where this train takes me. Because, everyone experiences it completely differently. That's another thing I've learned. I like what you say about the dream, that it's happened multiple times. That's pretty beautiful because he's still there. He's still right here. He's here, literally here with you, because you not only do you share the same DNA, you share the same spirit, you share the same, whatever this is that we're in, we're all here all the time. But even if he's not physically here, his impressions that are left on you, the dreams that you're having are showing that he's, even if he's not, he's in your subconscious, that wouldn't be happening in your dreams if he wasn't inside you and part of you,
right. Yes, definitely.
So they're not really ever gone. They're just in a different place. And whether that's in our subconscious or in a different plane of existence, I don't know.
Yeah.
Which could be our subconscious is a different plane of consciousness or existence. And,
I read this one Sam Harris book called Waking Up, and he talks about neurology and how they look for the origin of consciousness. Is consciousness in your brain?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you can take out parts of a brain and put someone else's brain in there and you still come back as you.
Mm-hmm.
You can take your heart out, give somebody a new heart, donor heart, you still come back as you. So if it's not in my heart and it's not in my brain, like where is the location? Where is the origin of my consciousness? I'm not so sure that this body has it. It's as if this body is a receiver. Do you know what I mean? And then maybe a neighboring dimension, or the sum of all dimensions. There's some source thing that we're all pulling from.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm daft to consider, my origin is different from your origin of consciousness. You're located at one spot on the drive, whereas another person might be over here. It's like, I could be daft to even consider that. There might be a oneness core that we're all stemming from. And the idea that it's located in a place that isn't this sounds real, at least to me.
Absolutely.
Based on how, I don't want to say out of touch with my body I feel, don't feel out of touch with my body. It's like all the yoga and stuff I've been doing, I feel very in touch with my body. But I don't feel at home in my body.
Yeah.
My body feels like a vacation home that I've rented and that I've gotten comfortable with and I might have drawn on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But mine feels, I don't know, that doesn't ring true for me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The first guest I talked with on this podcast was a yoga teacher named Michael. And one of the things we mentioned was like, you think about when people talk about, oh, I died and I came back and I saw light and I saw peace. It's like, dude, if there's light and there's peace, I'm down. That sounds great. You know what I mean? Like, if that's what awaits us when we pass is some lights and some peace and then maybe another body, I don't know.
Yeah.
The idea that people will reincarnate and get another chance to master, you know what I mean? Or if a person could somehow reach a state of consciousness that is not a victim to the death of the mortal body, you know? But that's all, what's the word? I don't want to say conjecture, that's not the word I'm looking for.
I'm not sure.
It's all good. That's all reaching.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So
I'm excited to see the bridge of science and spirituality.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's got to be a little bit of an intersecting there. It's so easy to be materialist, you know, and be like, oh, I got to measure it for it to be real. But then you look into the specifics of scientists who are confused. That's my favorite, is reading about confused scientists. Whether it's Tesla doing what he did, you know?
Just being like, I don't know what's going on.
Right? And how you make sense of this whole thing. You know, you look at Egyptians and pyramids, and it's like, they could have known something we don't know.
Yeah.
We might know something they didn't know.
Good chance of that.
It's cool to think about the idea that wherever you are in the space-time, you might have a very different set of problems to solve, but I do feel the connection to all places.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'd love to see Egypt with my eyes. That's got to be magical.
Yeah.
You know?
There's a lot of beauty out there, man.
I can't imagine a desert that goes on for quite that long.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a beautiful place we live in, man. It's absolutely beautiful. And that's kind of helped me process grief, especially because, you know, for example, standing in Grand Teton National Park, which is probably the most beautiful place I've ever been. Maybe. I've been to so many beautiful, like, it's just, this past year, it's been like one after the other, after the other, after the other. And I'm just now realizing this, that it was like a very bad and terrible place for a long time where I was in my headspace, right? So like we had my sister who passed away, and then I decided to close down my business, and then I got depressed, and then my girlfriend at the time broke up with me because I was dishonest about things and not a good boyfriend at all at the time. And then all it took was the decision to say, I'm in charge of what happens to me and how I react to this. So I'm getting the fuck out of here to go and deal with this monster, to go out into the like literal wilderness and deal with this monster on my own. You know, that's kind of how I see dealing with grief. That was a very big tangent, but
no, I feel you. The idea that nature and being surrounded by it and literally submerged in it is like going to be a healing component sounds perfectly apt.
It's one of the most healing things in the world, is being out in nature. I mean, the Japanese, they have forest bathing, which is where you just go out into the forest instead of like in a therapist's office. You go out into the forest with someone and you bathe in the forest. You cleanse your soul and you cleanse your spirit and you cleanse yourself, because that's us. Like, we're all the same thing. We're all the, you know. That
sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
I've never heard of bathing in the forest. I can really get behind that.
You don't even bathe. You're literally bathing yourself. Like, you're.
Oh, I see what you mean. You're not going to take a bath in a body of water. Also in the forest.
Which I've done.
Got it.
Which is very nice to do.
It's got to be nice.
Oh, it's very nice. I've bathed myself in the creek once or twice just because I didn't want to go to the, take a shower somewhere.
Keep that healthy microbiome.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people, I think, think that, like, oh, we exist apart from nature, but we don't. We are a part of it. We are inside of it. You know, it dictates what we do. We do not dictate what it does.
This is very fair.
You know?
This is very fair.
You know? the plants choose us. The plants are farming us, I believe.
I like that. Yeah,
You
I've
know?
seen this. That's cool. The idea that like the plants will win.
Oh, they're going to win. We will all die. The plants will come back. Well, if you really want to get into it, when the collapse of the planet happens and humanity ceases to exist, mycelium will just keep on ticking, keep doing its thing, and then that'll help the plants regrow, and then the planet's going to be just fine. It's humanity that's not going to be fine.
Right.
You know, the planet has been destroyed before. It's not like it's just going to explode and nothing's going to be here.
Feel you.
That could happen.
You think we would learn and just be better custodians?
Yeah, but we don't care. A lot of people don't care. They're more focused on.
No, it's all good.
Put on silent here. Yeah, I'm not sure why people are not as good to the planet as they need to be.
It's easy to take for granted, for sure.
Yeah, but like whenever you can physically see, like, okay, well that's not good. Something bad's happening. It's 60 degrees in the middle of December.
For real.
And not even to say that that's a direct effect of climate change, because I don't really understand climate change at all. I just know that it's bad and I need to recycle and not do things that are going to destroy the planet,
Hell yeah, man. I was talking with Bear Claw the other day. Ross.
Oh yeah, I know Rob. I know Bear Claw.
And so
Glad you guys still hang.
I was talking with Bear Claw, and he was talking about a professor that we both had at La Roche named Dr. Bellin. He's a big environmental guy. And one of the things he said was, don't really think of it as warming or change. Think of it as destabilization.
Yeah.
It was just stable for a while, you know what I mean? You have ice ages and stuff that are peaks and valleys in that stability. But we're at this place where we're just like tripping as far as practices go. You know what I mean? Whether it's like, industry and hey, Nova, chill. Lay down. You're okay. For real though, like you got Greta Thunberg.
Yeah.
Speaking some powerful truth from the younger mind. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And be as open to that as you are. It's just like, it's good to see people passionate about the fragility of something that we're all a part of.
Yeah.
Our coordinates are the same. We're all at Earth.
Yeah.
I might be here in Pennsylvania, and another person might be in another country or another section of the world. But like, dog, if we're gonna continue on the path we're on, we gotta take care of each other.
Yeah.
Everybody love everybody. And as hippie as that is, it's like, it's either gonna be the oneness, and the John Lennon vibes and the Ringo Starr peace and love.
Yeah.
Or it's gonna be plants and mycelium cleaning and filtering over for another go.
Yeah.
Do we want to be good enough? Let's accept the challenge of being good enough to live with Mother Nature in a way that is going to allow it to continue.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So she doesn't have to get pissed and throw a super volcano at us or some kind of world-ending meteor or whatever it is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm sure either of those things, if they take place, will be surely
Catastrophic. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Same word, different.
We're on the same page with that. Like, yeah, that'd be scary. The whole Four Horsemen thing.
Yeah. Four Horsemen would be terrifying.
No thanks.
Sorry, I got to stretch.
No, you're good. I know. This is one of those you talk about in the morning. Fogginess of mind, fogginess of body is the same way. I didn't move as much as I should have this morning. But
yeah.
It's nice to sleep. Sleep
is
the best. I'm trying to think of another little mind-blowing thing from that sleep book that you would probably dig. The caffeine thing was eye-opening for me. I was like, wow, I could drink coffee at like 3 p.m. and it's probably still going to mess with my REM sleep that night because it lasts so long.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a minor thing. Everybody knows coffee wires you. And they as much as I wanted them to expound on dreams in that book, there's just not a whole lot you know about that.
Yeah.
So that was a pretty brief chapter, yet still interesting.
Yeah.
But I believe my friend Johnny has that book right now. That's a good one to read. It's just like...
What, Science of Sleep? What's it called?
Why We Sleep.
Why We Sleep.
Yeah, and he looks at all the animals of the animal kingdom. Like, everybody gets sleep. Everybody dreams. It's a thing they all do. It's just interesting to think that we're all like... Obviously, you mentioned that spectrum of what a person's capable versus most animals, but to think that we all have that fundamental
Need for sleep.
Dreams, we eat, we mate. Come on. You know, we might be fancier with our fancier language and our fancy silicone transistors and our Apple phones and stuff.
Our homes, you know.
Yeah, right. With the electricity and the Siri, it's like, dog, we don't know.
Mm-mm.
We don't know. Do you see they're trying to build that massive telescope on a sacred mountain in Hawaii? It's supposed to be like the single largest telescope on the earth.
Really?
And it will give you a picture into the universe that you haven't previously had because of its magnitude and power. But people in Hawaii have been
pissed.
Sacred mountain, how dare you?
Yeah.
You already got an observatory on Hawaii.
Yeah.
But I need to do some recon. It's been a little while since I've heard an update on that front. I know people get salty about sacred lands, and I'm all for sacred land. It's just like we're at this point where the earth is sacred land as a whole, and if we can't save everybody on it, if a telescope could somehow be at all advantageous to saving, you know, or seeing a meteor before it gets in kill range or that kind of thing, or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, if you can learn a secret that'll put you on a path to not annihilation.
Yeah.
I'm for that, you know, but I also obviously empathize with a tribe of people in their sacred mountain.
Yeah.
You know, who wants their sacred mountain defiled? Nobody.
Nobody in the world.
You know? But telescopes are cool. I've never really been to an observatory or anything like that.
Really? There's one right over on Observatory Hill. And
yeah, I've never been in there.
They only open it once a year, and I've gone once.
Yeah, you have to have some kind of university thing to get in on the side of that, right?
I was with like a big brother, big sister mentor type situation, and he somehow got us in.
Okay, right on.
Which was pretty rad.
Yeah, that's gotta be really cool.
Yeah.
I've seen the building, it's beautiful.
It's amazing. Oh man, I wish I could make it up there before I go.
Let me ask you this, as far out as you are on the peninsula there in Washington, do you ever get views of the sky, like free of light pollution?
Yes. It's like I see more stars every night than I see anything. And the moon physically lights up the entire where I am. It's as if it's still light outside because the moon is so bright.
Right? Yes. I've experienced that in some places. Moonlight, it's like, wow, it's almost daytime. I could throw football out here like no problem.
They're talking that the aurora borealis or the northern lights are going to be viewable from where I am in the next 10 years.
Oh wow, that's wild.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any accuracy to that. It's just what I've heard, you know, on the rumor mill and all that shit.
That's cool, right on. That would be something else to see with my own and some cash.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, the night skies out there are, oh my God, man, they're exceptional.
I would really love to see mainstream major cities institute like a 1 hour or longer, as much as you're willing to negotiate with the people of town, to, in the middle of the night maybe, totally black out. You know, for a set amount of time that everyone knew, not to be caught off guard, and you could sit and savor a night sky. You know, do that often.
Yeah.
Free of light pollution.
Yeah.
You know, they said that in the 1990s in California there was a blackout, like a famous Los Angeles blackout.
Oh yeah.
But people, when they went outside, saw the Milky Way and called 911. And we're like, 911, there's some crazy shit in the sky. I don't know what's happening. And they're like, they found out that basically what this person was reporting was freaking them out.
Yeah.
Was just the already apparent night sky.
Yeah.
Minus the usual amount of light pollution.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, jealous, I guess, because I've never even like been in a blackout where I've gotten that view. So there's the jealousy of the moment. Like I want to be in awe of something to the point where I almost felt unsafe by it.
Yeah.
You know, and if all it was the sky naturally occurring the way it has since always.
Yeah.
You know. But man, it's like, why are we running lights everywhere all the way through the wee hours of the night? It's like you can't tell me that it's unsafe to turn them all off for just a little bit of time.
Yeah.
You know, and everybody could look forward to that moment of like, oh, it's going to be dark. Let's go check out the stars. It's like, give me that.
Yeah, a lot of people are like, we should go to the country and look at the stars during a date. I'm like, why don't you just do that all the time? And
if we could do that all the time, be all for that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I would be all for that.
Yeah, the stars are amazing. The sky out there is ridiculous. I can't wait. I just realized as I was sitting here, I'm not going to be in Pittsburgh at this time tomorrow, which kind of makes me sad. And kind of, I'm kind of excited though to go back and see a renewed version of what I was living in.
Right? For real. Exactly. With a fresh eye, you know?
Yeah.
For 100%. And it's cool to think about, we're not going anywhere. You know?
What do you mean?
Pittsburgh's going to be here. Pennsylvania's going to be here.
Yeah. And come back and visit. It's going to be
Exactly.
great. But like, I think I said this earlier. I keep having the inclination like maybe I should stay in Pittsburgh, but there's no reason to stay in Pittsburgh. It's just a veil of safety. And out there,
I
it's,
feel that.
you know, a lot of growth, and it's very uncomfortable to be out there because sometimes it's very uncomfortable to think of it because I spend a lot of time alone. And for the past 8 days, I'm sorry, I have had no alone time.
Mm.
So like readjusting to that's going to be tricky.
Yeah.
But I'm excited for it. I'm excited to go back and see the ocean. I'll probably jump
Absolutely.
in and see the mountains and see everything that I see every day that I was kind of like so used to seeing. And then when I get back, it'll be like, oh, I haven't seen this in a long time. It's just a fresh perspective. And that back to the whole grief thing, to like kind of wrap things up, I guess. Grief gives you a fresh perspective on your life.
You think a lot more about what it means to be here.
Yeah.
Now.
You think about it a lot more. You know? So people ask me this often. They'll say, you know, are you someone that thinks really far in the head or ahead, and you're planning all this stuff, and you think about what happened in the past to kind of correlate, like, this is how I'm going to do things? Well, my answer is no. And I mentioned earlier that I learned something from my dog. I learned many things from her. The most important thing I've learned from her, though, is she is hyper-focused on one thing, and that is whatever is in front of her. Whatever is happening right at this exact second is what she is focusing on. If we have a stick, all she's thinking about is, I want that stick, I need that stick, I have to have that stick. She has a one-track mind where she cannot think, oh, well, after I get this stick, I'm going to go to dinner with this person, and then I'm going to go poop in the yard, and then I'm going to go play with Cosmo up at the house, and then I'm going to go chase a raccoon around for a while. No, she thinks there's a stick here. And then Cosmo shows up, and she's like, oh, Cosmo's here. I need to go be playing with him. So she goes and plays with him. You know, it's crazy to me that for the longest time, and a lot of people do this, they think like so far ahead and so far behind that they forget that there's a stick right in front of them that they should be focusing on.
For real.
They need to be focusing on whatever's happening right in front of them, because that's the only way you can do it without fucking wanting to, you know, without losing your mind or getting anxious or depressed or whatever. It's all about, and I'm not saying that I never think and get anxious or sad. Like right now I'm thinking I'm going to Washington tomorrow. I'm kind of sad about it. But I'm also thinking that I'm having this conversation and I need to be present for that. So it's a weird, you know, that's what I've learned through grief, is that being present is very important. Because there might not be tomorrow. I could drive home with you today and we could both die in a car accident.
Dude, 100%.
Or I could
think about that all the time in the car.
Yeah.
I could be an excellent driver. The other cat is messing up.
Last night
Last night
I was driving to Lawrenceville. You know how you have to go like off of 65 up onto 28, like you have to cross over 279 to get there. I like crossed over, and this guy, I'm driving like this, just normal, like a normal person on the highway. And this guy just pulls like right into my car, and I had to swerve out of the way.
Oh, wow, yeah.
He didn't hit me, luckily.
Yeah.
And then I'm in my lane.
There was space for you to move. You moved over.
And then he did it again, though. So I had to go onto the shoulder and do it. It was so weird.
Was it one of those he just has the signal on? He's like, good luck, everyone else.
Yeah, it's exactly what it was. Yeah, I think he was intoxicated. But yeah, at that moment I was like, oh, I could have just been in an accident and potentially died. It's like, you know, it's so cliche, but I think grief brings out the most cliches than any other emotion in the world, because like one day you're going to die, but that's okay.
Yeah, and we waits for no man.
Yeah.
You know? To have the will to enjoy what you can enjoy while you can enjoy it is a nice reminder.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Cars are dangerous.
Cars are dangerous.
A lot of what we do is dangerous.
So much of what we do is dangerous.
It's good to be safe. Safety first, then teamwork.
Safety first, then teamwork. I thought hurricane season was over.
What a great movie.
It's so good, man. Oh, so beautiful.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's been a long time since I've been immersed in the woods.
Really?
Whether it's for a long hike, just like hours of a hike, or something like that. I'm definitely craving it. I'd love to go on a walking meditation in the woods.
You should, man. You should. It's so powerful and freeing and beautiful and scary. You know? It's wild. It's truly wild. Like, especially if you're in like a real forest.
I love when you encounter wildlife on a walk or something.
Yeah.
It's great.
Mm-hmm.
Turkey, snake, whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm terrified of snakes. Luckily, there are no poisonous snakes in the state of Washington.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Good to know.
But there are mountain lions, bears, coyotes, anything. There's a lot of stuff out there that will kill you. Mushrooms. Mushrooms are probably the most dangerous thing in the forest. Because they're so unassuming. And you're like, I'm so hungry. And you eat one, and then your kidneys are on the floor.
I think about poor Emil Hirsch in Into the Wild. So what's it called? Like eats a berry or something. It's poisonous.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's living in a bus too at that point.
Yeah.
At the end of the movie, he's dying. He finds the guidebook that's like, oh, you probably shouldn't have eaten that. He's like, shit.
And he dies.
Yeah, seriously.
He's like, oh no, I'm gonna die. Why didn't I look at this before?
Right. It's gotta be hard.
Yeah, his bus, I do not believe, was like that built out, was it?
No, it was as if he stumbled upon an abandoned bus, and it was not.
He's way tougher than I am.
He was using it as like a set of walls, basically.
Yeah, like a ramshackle shelter.
It's been a while since I've seen that, but I remember that moment of feeling like, oh, you thought that was safe to eat, and it was not.
Yeah.
That's gotta be a tough game to play.
Oh yeah, that's why I just eat vegetables.
That's a good point.
That I can identify, or I bring food in the woods with me, and
What's your favorite vegetable to eat?
Man, I love kale. I like kale a lot.
Okay, cool.
Kale, a typical. So, I'm raw vegan for 2/3 of my day.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so for the most part, it's been really hard over the holidays
I
because
feel
there's just food everywhere.
Mm.
Like it's hard. I can't really eat any of it, but I've been eating some of it. I've been breaking my.
Yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do.
I have to eat.
On your regimen.
You know.
To eat raw foods is awesome though. Life eats life, and when it's still alive because it's raw.
Amen.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good feeling.
So like I'll eat some fruit in the morning and then some fruit in the afternoon, or a Cliff Bar or something, just to give myself some energy. And then at night I'll cook up like 10 potatoes, some kale, some shallots, some mushrooms, some Romanesco. And then I'll either eat that on like a pita, or I'll eat it over pasta, or I'll eat it straight up.
Sounds really good.
Same thing every day, pretty much.
I love vegetables.
They're so good.
I really like Brussels sprouts.
Dude,
I really like asparagus.
I was walking through the farm the other night, and this happens all the time because the farm's huge. It's like 100 acres of farmland, all organic, all kinds of weird shit being grown. But the other night, me and my friend Michael were walking around the farm, and I trip over this plant because it's pitch black outside. I don't have a headlamp on. I turn on my headlamp. 750 feet of Brussels sprouts just growing there. And I had no idea they were there.
Oh.
So I just started eating them raw, which is a really good way to eat them.
I can dig it.
You know? You just chomp on them.
I love food so much.
That's so good.
Working at Whole Foods Market was for me a turning point in me eating healthy and me appreciating healthy foods because I felt what they were doing for my body.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So good.
It's great. I haven't been to a Whole Foods ever.
They're cool stores.
You worked at the one up in...
I worked at Wexford. And then when I moved to Texas, I worked at a place called The Domain. It's not their like major theme park Whole Foods because they're based in Austin down there. So they have one that's like literally a theme park in there. There's restaurants.
Really?
Yeah. It's like, oh, there's the fish counter, but then you can stop off and have a cat like cook you up actual fresh fish.
That's awesome.
At like a little seafood venue, you know, and they got the same thing in other spots of the store. It's very much like a restaurant and a grocery store combined. It was pretty sweet.
That's awesome.
I'm sure that things have been a little more corporate-y since Amazon bought them.
Yeah.
You know, but that's going to happen. I wouldn't blame John Mackey for selling out and going to a warm island or something, man. I feel that.
Yeah.
That dude, like, got evicted from his apartment because he was selling produce out of it. Like, he started at such a humble origin. So for you to have a successful place in multiple countries and someone wants to buy you out, dude, like, I don't hold that against you at all.
No.
a lot of people were pissed off and felt like all the core values are going out the window, and I'm sure that happens for sure.
Yeah.
Like, and that is a drag, undoubtedly.
Yeah.
But
Total drag, but
business.
business.
You can't let business, someone's, oh, I'm gonna lose money. I make cars with gas. I gotta take all the electric cars and break them.
Yeah.
It's like stupid.
Yeah.
We watched this documentary at LaRoche about who killed the electric car.
Mm-hmm.
Honda put out this one called the EV1 in like the early 90s, and got Mel Gibson, Hollywood actors, saying like, oh, this is a sweet ride. You plug it in, zip around, decent enough range, get where you're going.
Yeah.
Of course it wasn't perfect. It's not like the Tesla of today, but all the car companies just totally aligned against it, got them all banned and then destroyed.
Yeah.
You know, we basically lost like a nice 30 years worth of electric car production because of some shenanigans where it's like, oh, my gasoline car business cannot suffer.
Yeah.
You know, I will stifle your innovation. It's just like stupid. It's the same thing with all the ganja becoming illegal all of a sudden, and the mushrooms being studied by places that are actually reputable scientists, finding the benefit, you know, assisted psychotherapies, like in PTSD and terminal patients, to take these people who are literally like tortured by something that happened in their life, or the inevitable end of their life in a bad way, and are able to come back like,
oh, everything's
with
fine,
some kind of sense of connectedness and, you know, losing their fear of death at all. Like, that's priceless. You know, richest man on the face of the planet would like that peace of mind, you know, but you can't buy that peace of mind. You got to cultivate that peace of mind.
Yeah, literally have to cultivate it.
I feel fortunate to have stumbled into random encounters with psychedelics as I have. I'm always learning, you know, whether it's regular, ordinary consciousness, I'm watching and I'm learning, or whether it's those crazy altered states, I'm watching and I'm learning. You know.
Crazy stuff, man.
Should I let you get out of here? I know you don't have all the time in the world.
I should probably go.
Okay, cool.
But,
dude, it's been so nice chatting.
Yeah.
I wish you so much well wishes for the return to the forest. You know?
I'm nervous,
return
man.
to the farm. It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
It's gonna be great. I can just like see it in your blood. You look like you've been living the right life, man.
We high five in here?
Yeah, we are.
Perfect. Love it.
I've been sneezing so much, man.